Hey everybody, um, welcome to my demo of Wordtail. Wordtail is a game engine that I built on an MCP server that any AI can connect to, any AI client. So like here we have Claude, you could also do it with ChatGPT, um, any of them really, as long as they can connect to MCP. So the purpose of it is to basically fill what I felt like was a gap in a lot of these we've all seen them, the million clones of, play D&D with an AI, right? And they have all these like anime girls and everything like that. So, I tried a lot of those when I was younger. I feel like they've been out for a while now. And they never really hit it for me. They never really did the job. So I felt like I'd just make my own. So I spent a year working on this, and the primary complaints that I always had with a lot of those was it doesn't really remember everything. I mean, they all claim that they do. Usually they're just like running a RAG, or you gotta like pin your notes or things like that, because they're just feeding in text, right? They're just hitting a prompt. Usually in a lot of these, there's no actual persistent memory in the background. There's no entities. There's no code running in a lot of these. So that's how I try to make this one different. And here's going to be a little demo. Everyone can talk about how great theirs is all day, but here's just kind of my first campaign. So this is a pre-made world that I loaded up here. There's a couple that I made that anyone connecting to can just instantly join and grab, start playing with whatever edits you want. You can also make your own. All of these were made entirely through the MCP server, just through like a conversation with the AI, in this case Claude. Um, you can almost think of it more as like your DM assistant, right? Uh, Tell it you want something, and it'll help build the entities and construct the world. And I try to make it all genre flexible. So in this case, this is like a space western, right? Think Bash the Stampede or Cowboy Bebop, that kind of thing. So unlike D&D, there's vehicles, there's spaceships, you can track them. Um, the skills are different. I really, rather than trying to just tape D&D mechanics onto AI, I try to create an entire engine and skill system and status effect system that works with AI, because I know what I'm doing, right? So I'm not going to give like a full explanation of everything here. If you want to play, play your own game. But I'm mostly just going to show how it works, and then we'll do a little bit of a little gameplay demo later. So at the start, the scene opens with raiders attacking, basically. So you wake up. It gives you a little intro of who you are, who you're playing as. In this case, we're Jet Burrow. Yes, named a little bit after Joe Burrow because my girlfriend is a big fan. He's pretty sweet. So we're Jet Burrow, and down here. So I'm just going outside, and here you can see how the game works. So it's calling tools. So when I'm going out and I'm checking like a location, like in this case I'm going out to the barn, which is where the next door neighbor, retired cowboy Ben, he gave Jet his ship, and it's at the barn, right? So whenever you move somewhere, rather than the AI just making up something, or trying to read from like something heavily embedded in context, it pulls actual entities, actual persistent objects. So in this case, it's the barn, and you can see a little bit about it. This is something made in world building, and this will always be here. This barn will always be here. I come back 30 sessions later, and I revisit my home planet. Everything's going to be the same. So that's kind of the magic. It's moving because there's actually like a map. There's a persistent state. It's getting coal, Jet's dad, so that it can properly describe him and impersonate him. So I'm asking him, oh, I'm going to go to the ship. They don't want me to fly the ship because there's like a missing part that makes it more dangerous. But Jet's out here. He lives that life. So now we're going to roll some ability checks. In this case, to convince Cole, Jet's dad, that he can do this, and I succeeded. So it's all always dice rolls. And again, I didn't just copy D&D, but I did for the ability checks because that's just, that's simple, right? Every game does stuff like this. So the AI is not just going to make up success or fails. It's not just going to listen to whatever you want to do. It's it's like a DM. Record consequence. So this is just like a way to keep certain memories. salience is like how important it is, because the trick with these with any AI, right, is context management is what it comes down to. So I built everything to try to feed the AI what context it needs for the active scene. That's basically the whole philosophy, right? Uh, it's hard. I mean, it's not going to get everything perfect. There's still going to be some mistakes, and I'll show you. Sometimes you got to correct it, just because, unlike a human, these things don't have persistent memory. It's not a human DM. It's never going to be a human DM. It's not supposed to be, right? When you play D&D with your friends and your buddies, it's going to be more fun. It's like a social event. But it's not your story, right? It's your group's story. It's your group's campaign. And this can really just be your story. And it doesn't need to be limited by D&D's rules. And you don't need to balance the attention with, all your buddies and stuff. So it's just like a solo experience. It's not meant to compete with D&D. Because you can't, right? Just its own thing. So anyway, so we're moving around. Here you can see some more context being used to try to make sure the GM knows what's going on. So he says, yeah, you can go in the ship. I go to the ship, I turn it on, I call Ben, the neighbor, and I'm like, yo, raiders are coming. So now we're just going to get Ben. It's going to make sure that it's covering him correctly. It's going to get the ship. So the ship wakes up. Oh yeah, I was like, yo, I'm going to go blast these fools. And Ben's like, hey, hold up, man. Don't blast them. They got more ships, You fire the gun, they're going to cook you. So he says, threaten them. And I'm like, all right, yeah, you're right. He also talked about, let's see, on the ship, you can see it has... Oh, I also use this lethality, by the way. Like, instead of using dice for... It's still dice in the background, but instead of presenting it to the AI like, oh, you have a new weapon, make it a 2d6 or whatever, that's not really going to work, because AI doesn't have a concept of how powerful do I make this weapon versus that weapon, but put everything on the same scale, the same ruler, and now it can understand, right? Because it's just relative balance. So I don't want to give away all the secrets, but I put a lot of thought into this, and I think it shows. I think that especially with more modern AIs, like in this case we're using Fable 5, which is obviously overkill. I usually play it on medium, but Opus 5 just released, and I haven't tested it yet, but probably works well. Sorry, I'm getting sidetracked a little bit, but down here we should have something about somewhere. Maybe not. Okay, well, I thought I'd have what equipment is on the ship. It should do that, but I'm not seeing it. Maybe I'll have to go take a look at that. Still in, it's still under development, so not everything's perfect. It looks like I just shoved everything in this field. But anyways, so he says, use the hailing array to call him out and see if you can get him to back off. So does that. Says like, oh, I got a ship. Back off, guys. Now it's going to get some of the raiders, figure out what's going on with them, what their personalities are, rolls a contested check, so it's my charisma, or Jet's charisma rather, versus Castacker, one of the raiders' wisdom. And Jet succeeded on the roll, so they're going to back off. It's going to check this this tension, basically trying to... tension is just like a consistent context regarding some kind of active tension that's going on, right? So in this case, it's the raid. So this was about the raid turning bloody, and I'm doing a non-violent thing, so it went backwards, right? Stored a little memory here, and then, they're like, okay, we don't want to fight, we're just here for fuel, so they're like, we'll buy it from you for a fair price. So Jet doesn't want to start a fight, so he calls... Oh, wait, no, he just accepts it, and then says 250. He doesn't want to upcharge him because he doesn't want to start a fight. We get Cole some money. Oh, so this is the AI like fixing a game state that actually wasn't properly set up. Well, I'm not gonna say not properly set up. You can't. It's not really possible to have everything perfect all the time. It's just not, right? You're playing with AI. You have to accept that there are going to be mistakes. But I believe that I've done the best job possible to make it so that the AI can be self-correcting and maintain as good of a state as needed to run your game, right? So Cole Burrow, I don't think in the pre-made world I ever actually defined how much money he has total, because it doesn't really matter. I mean, I suppose maybe I should have, but regardless, so it's giving Cole 250 credits, and then it's gonna give it to me, I think. I guess just give it to Cole. I guess that makes sense. It's like going from the Raiders to him. So then we're going to advance time a little bit. We have to keep track of time. Quick save. There's like a weather system. Time is tied to like the weather. It's tied to status effects. It's tied to a lot of things. Trying to keep consistent time in the campaign. Let's do a little save. So they're like, all right, 250. They go take the ship, the fuel or whatever. Jet's stoked. He heads over and is like, yo, we're good. I get some XP. You know, now we're gonna go check out the neighbors because the neighbors got hit. So now we're going to the neighbors. What's going on here? Convincing my mom of something. Jet's convincing his mom of something. Oh yeah, they're gonna go. He's gonna take the ship to the farm because I don't have much time, and it's kind of like a far distance. Moving people around. We go check out. Jet goes and checks out the neighbors. I didn't actually have them all created in the pre-made world because the whole point is that you don't have to create everything up front. Because you have an AI running the campaign, you want to create stuff dynamically. You want to create only the world that actually matters. There's no point in spending 5 hours developing these 20 planets if the player is not even going to go to them. Well, what's the point? So with AI, you really have the ability to just build on demand. You only build what actually matters in front of you. Like the world gets generated around the player as they move around, which maybe sounds like it doesn't make much sense, but stick with me. Believe in the dream for a minute here. So now it's making some of the neighbors. So it makes the mom, makes the dad, and it makes. Oh yeah, engine mistake here. So sometimes the tools, the AI makes a mistake calling a tool, or I have a specific error that I probably should not have had. I fix this later, but anyways, it catches itself. So it messed up, and now it makes them again, and now it works. And he was like bleeding or something, so I get him out, rolls an ability check, and we can grant advantage or other things, and the DM decides how difficult it is. You'll notice I use a plain string here instead of like a D8 or like a D20 or a DC16 or whatever. Because again, like AI doesn't have concept of these. A human can write in a rules book what these numbers mean, and a human DM understands when to use DC18 versus DC14. But an AI doesn't understand that. So you try to make it as simple as possible. And it can grant advantage. In this case, it grants advantage because Jet built this thing that we're checking. We advance time a little bit longer. So we have a year, a date. We can see, where we are. It's dawn. There's a high cloud shelf, apparently, is the starting weather. Gets cranked. Get some money, get them out of there. The tension goes down because the Raiders are gone. What else is happening? Rust Devils are gone. Farm comes first. Oh yeah, we gotta get fuel. So we head out to like the place where you can get fuel on the colony, go get some fuel. And then I talk about, every time I play a campaign, I basically try to ask the AI, as his experience running it, what worked, what didn't, and then I refine, right? I keep making the engine better and better. I've spent about a year on this. So my second session, so right out the gate, you can see I correct something because the AI, again, is not going to be perfect, and you can't expect perfection. But you can expect pretty darn good, and I think that it has achieved pretty darn good. So we load this game that we saved in the previous campaign right here. We saved here at the very end because we don't need everything in context to be stored all the time. I mean, that's impossible. That's why a lot of these other tools they just fail so hard to remember things because they just try to like keep everything in context forever. It's never going to work, right? So we have a save. This is like end of save wrap up stuff where you do your best to record, or the AI rather, does its best to record everything that needs to be saved. So a lot of this stuff, it's not necessarily going to remember. It's not going to remember an exact line. It's not going to remember that Ben said, "Oh, told you Noon was optimistic." If you were to ask him, next session, the AI is not going to remember that because it doesn't really matter. I mean, in the same way that a human DM is not going to remember every single thing that was said during a session. You remember the important parts, right? And if you want to take your own notes or come back to here, whatever, and you can be like, "Oh, Ben, you said this at this time," the AI will roll with it, right? They'll believe you. It's not meant to oppose you. The AI will always believe you as the human because you are smarter than the AI, right? Right? We're people. We got big brains. We're smarter than the AI. So you're in control. The AI is just your little servant, honestly, your little slave DM. But we love Claude, so. And in this case, Claude. ChatGPT is fine too. All right, so next session we reload, and it immediately reloads the last scene that I ended on. I wrapped up when I was haggling for fuel, or right when I arrived from like the. It's like a frontier farm planet, so there's like one kind of like hub, I guess, where you can do like trade and stuff like that. So here's where we're getting fuel. Everybody's trying to get fuel, so the prices are going up because the raiders took a bunch of people's fuel, right? So we show up here, and he basically says like, "Oh, you have 400 of your pause credits," and a face like you're doing arithmetic. But I never said that I have 400 credits. Like, how would this guy know? So I'm like, oh, out of character. He wouldn't know Jet has 400 credits. And I also was curious about what this character would have told Jet, so I don't know what it saved here. Oh, it just saved whatever. Okay. So it corrects itself that he doesn't know how much money he has. It doesn't really matter. I mean, I could have just rolled with it. So do an ability check because they were. Well, I can skip past a lot of this stuff. What else can I show off here? It's creating a bunch of people here. So it's creating more locations. So here, when I fly above the planet, we don't have a location for that yet, and now it creates one of the skies over the eastern flats with a scale, because you try to keep and see, it failed a couple times, and I have like this guidance that tries to make it do better. It keeps messing up. So it gets guidance on demand to again try to preserve context, and then it creates this location. So that way, when you return to this location, you know where it is, and it can kind of have a spatial hierarchy around. And it's not perfect. Again, it's not trying to make things perfect. Try to make it good enough. So there's that. Enters the vehicle. So Ben and Jet are getting in the ship, and they're gonna fly around. Taking flight here and there. Blah blah blah. Oh yeah. I don't want to spoil anything in case anyone plays, but you get the part back, and we're rolling. And then session 3. My mic died. Let's plug this thing in. Alright, session 3. So we reload again. Now we're in the barn. I think I saved like right before I started fixing the ship. So fixes it, and it's like, this doesn't need a roll because you've got a manual. Not everything needs a roll all the time. Puts the new part on the ship. Yeah, see, ships do have items. There wasn't displaying, right? So it's actually an engine bug I need to check out. Updates some of these entities. We can remember them. Records memories. Puts this other part on. I bought another part. That's the AI just made up. It was the Elder Sensor Eye. I mean, I didn't create this during world building. The GM just made this up. I wonder if I have the actual. No, I don't. That doesn't matter. Starts flying. I do some racing, so we'll run some checks here, and we we fail this one, right? I'm trying to show off, and Jet fails it. So the DM, the goal is to, you can see kind of its thought process. So, racing maneuver goes wrong, Ben attempts something showy, and it's actually Jet. Jet attempts something showy. Well, what the AI thinks is not really what's going to come out. It does it correctly here, but a failure is, it's not meant to be like oh, you died, right? You have a close call. So have a close call. Ben's like, yo, don't do that. We got a letter that he gave me, and this was again just made up. I didn't initially have this in world building. I think I added it, but Ben has a letter, shows it to me. That letter's still going to be there sessions later. Go to the family, and here's another mistake. So we go to the home for dinner, and I noticed that like only 2 people are there, which doesn't make sense. You're on a farm planet, and you got a bunch of siblings. Everyone's going to be there at dinner, right? So that's what I'm saying. I'm like, oh, you're missing them all. They should all be present at supper. You got to correct it every now and then. It's just inevitable. So we get everybody there, the full squad, have dinner. Let my little sister and little brother ride in the ship with me. Time moves on. A lot of narrative. Save it. Then we go session 4. What we got in session 4? Back in the barn. Oh yeah, like another cowboy showed up. Another like bounty hunter that knows Ben showed up. And again, I don't think this was made in world building. I can't remember 100%, but pretty sure the DM just came up with this character. Because the point is that the DM's inventing these things. It keeps the world entertaining for you. You don't have to do everything on your own. But the further away you move from what you've built around you, sometimes you'll need to give the DM a little bit of direction. So still, there's a little bit of effort from you, but I think it's. I mean, I was having fun at least. I think it's pretty good. So here's I was like confused by something. So she's like, "Oh, you bluffed about having a cannon." And I was like, "No, the ship does have a cannon, man." But it's saying that, oh, it's like a lower lethality class, not really a cannon. So I don't 100% agree with the DM on that one, but whatever. I guess it makes sense. Talking about a claim, what it's worth. I'm like, oh no, I don't record Ben's name. He's retired. What else interesting happens? People are getting moved. Whenever you get a new place, it tells you everything that's there. So you can see it's like, we got weather going on. We got a player there. Got all this stuff going on. A lot of context all the time. Moving. I'm just saying my goodbyes to everybody because Jet's about to roll out. Save the scene. Next session, saying goodbye. I did a lot of world building this one actually. So, I had to correct the DM on some things. I was like, what's in the ship? So you see like actually I can show the letter here too. So although this is session 5 and the letter was in like session 2 or whatever, it still shows that there is a letter. Although it did misunderstand that it's like a letter you weren't supposed to have read yet. That's wrong. I mean, Ben was like, just read this on your own terms. So I'm like, no, like you're wrong. That's not correct. So the DM fixes it, but it has the same contents as it did from back then. So the AI was like 80% right. So no problem. Just correct it. And it's not going to come up again because it saved something that I'm like, all right, so what's the ship really look like from the inside? And it gives you a nice little overview. And if I were to come back in here 20 sessions later and ask what's all around the ship, it's probably going to describe it a little bit differently because not every single one of these details is stored on that sheet. But the shape should be mostly the same. And if there's anything that you really care about, you can always just correct the AI and be like, oh, it's there. Like we got this coffee tin or whatever. But it notes the important parts. That's really the trade-off of trying to play a game like this, an immersive storytelling game with AI. It's got limited memory again, so you can never store all the details. Trying to chase perfection is just going to lead you to failure. So the whole goal is to just be good enough to have fun, and to feel like everything's mostly persistent. So, all right, I'm just talking about what we got in space. We're loving it. Here's like a system that I created about like how information gets around in the galaxy. This was kind of fun. So, I'm gonna get too into it if I start talking about it. But I had a certain idea for how I wanted data to transfer back and forth, and I really got pretty into it here. And it's nice to have the AI to kind of bounce ideas off of. So I sort of misunderstood radio signal and how it passes. My physics has gotten worse since I graduated from college, so I had to check in with Claude here a little bit. But we got it done, and I edited the pre-made world to cover these rules as I wanted them. So when a future player hops in, they can have all these improvements. So that's really what this session was. And sometimes you have sessions like this, right, where you're just world building and you're just fixing up the world, and then next session everything's saved the way you want it to be. So I just saved, and what are we at? 26 minutes. All right, I'll just do a couple responses in my latest. So now we start again. We just load the save, and here we're back in the borrowed time. That's the name of the ship. So we have no wind against the barn boards, no generator thrum, no sibling arguing 2 rooms over. Just the ship's 5 civilization harmony under the desk plates, low and steady, and Dunmer behind the aft glass. A gold coin now, honest to Ben's word, small enough to cover with your thumb. You don't. You check twice, and both times your thumb stops short of the glass, like it knew better. The console keeps its own kind of company. The lane marker sits green and patient, 40 hours of burns strung out ahead of you like a road with no bends in it. The bulletin feed ticks over in the corner, freshening slowly. Weak stale entries dropping off as orbit traffic sinks past, and every few minutes a new line arrives the way rain does. Ma's message is still pinned where you left it. Counted you gone. Count starts again at the gate. The cabin smells like coolant, leather, and old coffee. Ben's coffee, technically, the 10's still in the galley locker. The pilot seat has stopped arguing with your ship. 40 hours and everything you carried at the well is waiting on you. The box Ma packed. Ben's letter writing in your jacket like it weighs more than a paper should. The sealed last job logs sitting quiet in the nav archive. The junk archive of footage, frame by frame, or none of it. Just the black, the coin, and the road. Burn is yours, Jet. How do you spend the first stretch of it? So let's see. I'll just say like for the first. I'll just say I start going through the sealed. I'll start going through Ben's private archive. Things I never looked at before. Now that I'm on my way to being a cowboy. Well, actually, you know what? Let's write this a letter. The better you write, the better the AI is going to write. But I am far from the greatest writer. Alright, so there you go. That's like a response. I start going through Ben's private archive, things I never looked at before. Although Ben's no longer present, I can still learn things from his knowledge on the ship. So it's going to start searching for archive logs. Any entity that has this, it returns some, and we find Ben's ship. Did it even find the right thing? It did. So here we go. We found the drive, which instance. I don't really know what that means exactly. Sometimes I forget everything that I actually built in this engine. But it found what I was asking for. So because sometimes I will say the AI is not always the most proactive about finding things, but as long as you remember and you know what's supposed to be there, you can help the AI find it. So we got a password from Ben. This is something I talked about last session. We talk it through, got some job entries, and now I'd keep playing. So there you go, short little summary of Wordtail and how it works. And if you're interested, I hope you give it a shot. It's free. You just need a subscription to like Claude or ChatGPT. I think ChatGPT now you can connect to MCP servers for free. I have a website. It's wordtail.com. I'll put it in the description. I can also just go to it real quick. I don't think it's going to render fully, but the website is not great. But I have a Discord. You can click on this button here to see how to connect. For Claude, it's pretty simple. It's just like, I don't think you can see super well. And you just add, and you add a custom connector, and you can go to the MCP server. I should try to get it on here. Maybe future work, future effort. Then for ChatGPT, I have some screenshots because it's a little bit more complicated. You got to go to plugins. You got to look here. You got to put in a OAuth client ID because for some reason OpenAI has some bugs with their dynamic client registration. So it's not too complicated. Hopefully you can understand from these. Anyone that's interested. And otherwise, just hit me up on the Discord. And yeah, I hope that was interesting. Hope someone wants to give it a try. Thanks for watching, everybody. Take it easy.